I paid for everything for 12 years, until the day my family showed up to my $13,000 vacation uninvited and expected me to cover that too. That morning, I smiled and said, "Understood," but they had no idea I was about to change everything. My name is Jennifer Brown. I'm 34 years old, and if you asked most people how boundaries are made, they'd probably picture something loud and dramatic. A big argument, a door slammed, a moment where everything changes all at once. That's not how it happened for me. For me, it was slow, quiet, so subtle I didn't even notice it at first. It started with a sentence I heard every single summer for 12 years. "You're not coming on this family vacation." I can still picture the very first time they said it. I was 22, freshly out of college, still figuring out my footing in my first real job as a project manager. I remember standing in our kitchen early in the morning, holding a warm mug of coffee, feeling proud of myself for finally being independent. My parents and my younger sister, Grace, were talking about a trip to Key West, Florida. They sounded excited, laughing, tossing around ideas about beaches and restaurants. Then my mom turned to me with that soft, almost apologetic smile. "Sweetheart, the rental house only has 3 bedrooms," she said gently. "Maybe next year." I nodded like it made perfect sense. I even smiled back like I was okay with it. But next year never came. Not for me. Every summer after that, there was always a reason. And somehow that reason always meant I wasn't included. The second year, Grace had just gone through a breakup, and I was told she needed healing time with mom and dad. The third year, they said the flights were already booked before they thought to invite me. By the fourth year, they didn't even bother with explanations anymore. They just posted photos. Photos of them smiling in Cabo, walking along the water in Key West, standing under red rocks in Sedona, always together, always happy, always without me. I tried to convince myself it didn't matter, that they just needed time as a smaller family unit, that maybe I was overthinking it, being too sensitive. But deep down, it didn't feel that way. It felt like I was standing right there in plain sight and somehow invisible. Like I was orbiting around a family that didn't quite see me anymore. What made it hurt even more was everything happening in the background during those same 12 years. Because while I wasn't invited on vacations, I was always included in something else. The problems, the emergencies, the just this once moments. When my parents came up $800 short on property taxes, I covered it without hesitation. When my dad's dental implant bill ended up way higher than insurance estimated, it went on my card. When Grace moved back home temporarily, which somehow turned into 2 full years, I paid her phone bill because she said she needed every dollar she had for rent. I told myself I was helping. That's what family does, right? But it didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, almost unnoticeable, little by little. Just this once. "We'll pay you back in the spring." "You're so good with money, Jennifer." At some point, without me realizing it, helping turned into funding, and funding turned into a routine. A routine they depended on. A routine I didn't know how to stop. About 2.5 years ago, something finally started to crack. There had been a string of unexpected expenses, one after another, and I decided to create something I thought would fix everything: a shared travel wallet. It was supposed to be simple. Everyone could see what went in and what went out. Total transparency, no confusion, no chaos. At least that was the idea. But transparency doesn't work when only one person is actually putting money in. And that person was me. Grace would text me things like, "Wallet's short $500, can you top it off? I'll pay you Saturday." Saturday would turn into Monday. Monday would turn into, "Work is weird right now." And then, silence. Whenever I tried to bring it up, my mom would get emotional. Tears in her eyes, like I'd hurt her just by mentioning money. My dad would let out these long, heavy sighs, like the conversation itself was exhausting him. Grace would send voice notes about how I was making everything feel transactional. And somehow I'd end up feeling like the bad guy. all while they continued going on vacation after vacation without me. Last winter, when I heard the words again, "We're going without you this year," something inside me finally shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. A line formed. Solid. Quiet. Final. If I wasn't part of their vacations, then I would take one for myself. Not to prove a point. Not to get back at anyone. Just to breathe. To exist somewhere where I wasn't the backup plan, the safety net, or the one who always said yes. So I booked it. A $13,000 private villa in Palm Springs, perched high enough to overlook the ocean. It felt surreal, even clicking confirm. Like I was doing something I wasn't used to, choosing myself. For the first time in years, it was just me. A pool shimmering under the sun. Quiet mornings. No expectations. No messages asking for money. No guilt. For 2 perfect days, I let myself enjoy it. I swam in warm water until my skin felt soft and light. I ate cold fruit on the patio, letting the breeze move through my hair. I slept deeply without that constant low-level anxiety sitting in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't needed. I was just there. And it felt peaceful. On the morning of the 3rd day, I had just finished swimming. My hair was still dripping, water trailing down my shoulders as I walked up the villa stairs toward the patio. That's when I stopped, completely froze, because standing right there on my private patio, dragging 3 rolling suitcases across the stone, were my mother, my father, and my sister, Grace. Like they belonged there, like this was normal. They were smiling. My mom lifted her sunglasses and looked at me, beaming. "Jennifer, surprise!" she sang, like this was some kind of sweet, thoughtful reunion. "We thought we'd join you, and since you already booked the villa, well, you can just cover the rest." My mouth went dry. I could feel my toes curling against the tile beneath me, my body going still in a way I couldn't control. For a couple of seconds, everything around me felt frozen. Then she added, just as cheerfully, "You don't mind, right?" I looked at them. At their suitcases. At the water still dripping from my hair onto the ground. At the vacation I had finally given myself after 12 years of being left out. And I smiled. Slowly. Quietly. The kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. "Understood," I said. She didn't notice the shift in my voice. She didn't hear what was underneath that word. But I did. Because in that moment, something inside me settled into place. That was the moment my real vacation actually began. The thing about my family is, they've always taken my silence as agreement. If I don't argue, they assume I'm okay with it. If I don't push back, they think I've accepted it. So when I said understood, they heard permission. But that's not what it was. It was a decision. By the time they finished walking through my villa, my $13,000 sanctuary like it belonged to them, I already knew exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't angry. I wasn't looking for revenge. I didn't want a dramatic scene. What I wanted was something much simpler. Something calm. Something precise. I had a plan. And it was going to be procedural, that same calm tone I use at work when I've already given all the warnings I'm going to give. And this time, I wasn't just thinking about boundaries. I was documenting everything. I sat down, still in my damp swimsuit, and opened the travel wallet app. My thumb hovered for a second before I started scrolling. 12 years of history passed under my finger like a timeline I had never really looked at all at once. Grace's spa days labeled anxiety. Mom's airport hotel labeled exhaustion. Dad's cabin upgrades labeled necessary comfort. Every entry had a soft excuse attached to it. Every charge looked reasonable on its own. Together, it told a completely different story. I took a breath and pressed pause on card access. All 3 cards. Then I moved to the next step. I messaged the concierge. "Hi, this is Jennifer Brown, the lead guest on reservation number 42309. Please limit family members to 2 single-night guest passes only. After that, day access only. No authorizations without my approval. I watched the typing dots appear almost instantly. Of course, Miss Brown, confirmed. I let out a slow breath. Checkmate. Quietly, politely, done. Next, airport transfers. Earlier, my mom had proudly forwarded me the email thread showing how much effort she'd put into planning their trip. I pulled it up again, scrolling until I found their return booking. Using the same company, I sent a quick update. I moved their pickup from the late-night seaplane they'd chosen to the earliest ferry of the day. Family emergency, I wrote. And for once, that wasn't even a lie. The emergency was me. My boundaries. That afternoon, we had lunch out on the patio. The ocean stretched out in front of us, sunlight dancing across the water. Normally, it would have been perfect. The kind of moment people post online and call grateful. I tried to stay in that feeling, to focus on the breeze, the sound of the waves, the smell of grilled fish drifting from the kitchen. But my mom had other plans. Jennifer, she said brightly, waving the waiter over before I could even look at the menu. We want the seafood feast, the big one, and 3 cocktails. Make it fun. Dad laughed, tapping the table like he always did when he expected me to step in. Come on. Treat, treat, he said, like it was a magic word that would automatically unlock my wallet. Grace didn't even look up from her phone. She was filming the view for her Instagram story. I can't believe you didn't tell us you were coming here, she said casually. That's kind of rude, honestly. Rude. I let that word sit there for a second. Then I looked at all 3 of them. And when the waiter came back, I ordered a simple salad. When the bill arrived, I paid for exactly one thing. Mine. I watched their faces shift, just slightly. Their smiles didn't disappear, but they changed. Tightened. Flickered. Confusion crept in, the first small cracks. After lunch, they stretched out by the pool like they owned the place, laughing, ordering drinks, settling in, like this was just another vacation they didn't have to think about. I went inside. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had quietly kept over the years. My private record. My proof. I started filling in the last 12 months. Luggage fees, cabin upgrades, lounge passes, airport hotels, designer clothes for unexpected weather. 2 spa days for Grace's anxiety. Premium airport transfers for 3 people. Not me. Line after line, charge after charge, each one small on its own. But together, heavy. When the total finally calculated at the bottom, I sat back for a second and just stared at it. $9,990 out. $1,250 in. I didn't feel angry. Just clear. I clicked Export PDF and saved it in a folder labeled Settlements. It felt oddly satisfying, like I was organizing something inside myself that had been messy for far too long. Dinner was where everything finally shifted out in the open. The waiter approached quietly, professional as ever, and leaned in slightly. They canceled everything, he said under his breath. Dad froze, his hand hovering halfway to his wine glass. Mom blinked, her expression shifting from confusion to something sharper. Grace's phone buzzed and she frowned at the screen. My card just declined, she said. Dad cleared his throat, trying to keep control of the moment. Did the bank block it? He asked. I took a slow sip of wine before answering. No. I set the glass down gently. I paused the emergency wallet until we settle the last 12 months. The silence that followed didn't come all at once. It dropped in layers. Confusion first, then disbelief, then something closer to panic. And just so you know, I added calmly, glancing out at the ocean behind them. Starting tomorrow, you'll be on day passes here. After that, beaches and cafes. Sunsets are still free. Grace let out a sharp laugh. Are you serious? We flew across the world. I looked at her evenly. You flew across the world, I said, using a wallet labeled Family Emergencies. I placed my phone on the table and opened the PDF. No raised voice, no accusations, just numbers, dates, reasons, facts. Mom barely skimmed it before her expression shifted into something familiar. "You're embarrassing us, Jennifer," she said, her voice tightening. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "I've been embarrassed for 12 years. Tonight, I'm just being clear." Dad leaned forward, using the same tone he'd used on me since I was a teenager. "Don't do this to your mother." I met his eyes without flinching. "Don't do this to your daughter." That landed. The silence that followed felt different, heavier. Even the sound of the waves seemed louder than anything at the table. When the check came, I reached for it without hesitation. And again, I paid only for my part. The waiter gave me a small nod. Subtle, almost approving. Back at the villa, I walked ahead of them, my steps steady. I didn't wait. I didn't turn around. I didn't explain. I went straight to my suite, closed the door, and locked it. For a moment, I just stood there in the quiet. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat down. Their voices drifted up from downstairs. Raised, sharp, tangled together. Anger, confusion. Blame. I didn't go down. For the first time in 12 years, I didn't step into it. I didn't fix it. I didn't absorb it. That night, I sent one message to the family group chat. "I'm leaving the villa tomorrow morning. You're welcome to keep it for the remaining nights at your expense. Good luck." The typing bubbles appeared immediately. Mom, "You're overreacting." Grace, "OMG, Jennifer, selfish much?" Dad, "We'll talk in the morning." I muted the chat, set my phone down, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I slept deeply. No tension in my chest, no replaying conversations, no guilt, just quiet. I woke up before sunrise. The sky was still soft blue, the air cool and fresh against my skin. Everything felt still, like the world hadn't fully woken up yet. And inside me, something had changed. My chest felt lighter, like something I'd been carrying for years had finally slipped off during the night. I packed one suitcase. No rushing, no hesitation, no second guessing, just calm, steady movement. By 7:45 a.m., I checked out of the villa. And this time, I didn't look back. "You're leaving early, Miss Brown?" the concierge asked as I handed over my key. I smiled, calm and steady. "Not early," I said. "Just on time." He gave a small nod like he understood more than I was saying out loud. And somehow that made me feel even more certain I was doing the right thing. I checked into a smaller hotel on the other side of the island. It was a quiet little boutique place, tucked near cliffs that caught the morning light just right. The air felt softer there, calmer. No noise, no pressure. No one expecting anything from me. It was exactly what I needed. I spent the day slowly, intentionally. I swam in the cool water, letting it wake me up in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I wandered along the paths nearby, stopping whenever I felt like it, not rushing for anyone. I ordered a lobster roll with warm butter and sat outside, just watching the ocean and letting myself exist in the moment. And for the first time in years, I breathed. Not that shallow, tight kind of breathing I didn't even realize I'd been doing. Real breathing. Deep. Easy. Mine. Then my phone started vibrating. Again. And again. And again. I didn't even need to look to know who it was. My family had finally realized something. When I said I wasn't paying, I meant it. The villa had asked for full payment up front for the remaining nights, something they'd always assumed would just quietly land on my card, but this time it didn't. Their cards were suddenly having unexpected errors. The driver they tried to book last minute was charging triple. Every little convenience they were used to was now their responsibility. Within less than 40 hours, they went from annoyed to confused to completely panicked. I didn't answer a single call. I didn't open the messages. And I didn't let myself feel guilty. Instead, I went to the hotel gym for the first time in 3 months. I moved my body, felt the tension leave my shoulders little by little, and when I was done, I called someone who actually showed up for me. Liam, my boyfriend. He had noticed the change in me long before this trip. He'd seen how tired I was, how stretched thin I'd become, always putting my family first, even when it cost me my own peace. The second he picked up, he paused. "Your voice sounds lighter," he said. "What changed?" I leaned back against the wall, still catching my breath. "I stopped apologizing for having limits," I told him. He let out a soft laugh. "I like this version of you," he said. "Confident. Clear." I smiled without even thinking. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Me too." Talking to him felt different from talking to my family. There was no pressure, no guilt hiding between the words, just steady, grounded support. We ended up talking about his past, about his ex, how she used guilt to keep him around longer than she should have. "You're not obligated to bleed for people just because they say they need you," he said. There was a pause. "And neither am I." Something about that sentence settled deep inside me, like a final piece clicking into place. By the second Saturday after I left the villa, the calls had changed. They weren't just frustrated anymore, they were desperate. That afternoon, my mom's name lit up my screen again. This time, I answered. Her voice came through shaky, unsteady. "Jennifer, your father's card was declined at the pharmacy." For a split second, I felt that old instinct rise up. The version of me they were used to, the one who would drop everything, grab her card, and fix it without hesitation. But that wasn't me anymore. "Where's Dad?" I asked calmly. She sounded relieved immediately. "He's right here," she said, passing the phone. "Jennifer," my dad started, using that heavy, serious tone he always used when he expected me to fall in line. "This is serious. I cut in gently. "There's a hardship form in the email I sent you." There was a pause. "A what?" "A hardship form," I repeated. "It lowers your monthly payments, but you still pay something." Silence. Then I added, steady and clear. "I told you. I'm not your emergency anymore." He let out a sharp breath, frustration slipping through. "Jennifer, stop this nonsense." I didn't raise my voice. "No," I said. "You stop treating me like your financial backup." The silence that followed felt different. Not tense. Not loud. Just final. And then the line went dead. 3 hours later, a notification popped up on my phone. Auto draft completed. Account, A. Brown. No apology. No explanation. Just a payment. Finally made from the right account. I didn't need anything else, not gratitude, not acknowledgement. Just accountability. Then Grace called. Her tone was so sweet it almost sounded fake. "So, my lease renewal fee is due this week," she said, stretching the words out carefully. "And it's a lot." I thought maybe. "No," I said before she could finish. She stopped. "Wait. What?" "You heard me." Her tone flipped instantly, from sweet to sharp. "Well, what am I supposed to do?" I didn't hesitate. "Sell the designer luggage you bought," I said. "The one you charged to the travel wallet." There was a long pause on the other end, then flat and cold. "You're unbelievable." "You wanted advice," I said. "That's my advice." She sent me 4 long paragraphs after that. About family, about support, about how I had changed, about how I wasn't the same person she grew up with. I read them once. Then I replied with a single sentence. "You are an adult." I watched the typing bubbles appear and then disappear. That night, I stepped out onto the balcony of my little hotel room. The sun was setting slowly over the ocean, colors blending together. Orange melting into pink, pink fading into soft violet. Everything felt still, but it wasn't the kind of quiet I used to feel. Not the quiet of being left out, not the quiet of swallowing resentment, not the quiet of waiting for the next call asking for help. This was different. This was peace. The kind of peace you earn when you finally stop setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. I didn't know what my family would do next. I didn't know what this would look like months from now, or years. But for the first time in 12 years, I knew one thing for sure. They were going to figure it out without me.